Other advantage of this model is the back end of this still remains your traditional infrastructure, because already here at the IDRBT we have the National Financial Switch, which handles ATM transactions and POS transactions, and therefore this, what I am suggesting, is nothing but an extension of that, because instead of an ATM transaction of 3,000 rupees coming from an ATM on Cuff Parade, you will now have a micro payment or micro withdrawal of 50 rupees coming from a Kirana store in some village in Orissa. But once it leaves that village on the network, it comes exactly like the same ISO 8583 transaction that you get from a switch. And therefore, without changing the back end of your infrastructure, by making the front end at each Kirana store mimic an ATM or a POS machine, you can leverage the entire infrastructure at the back end we have already built for ATM infrastructure. And therefore, we can create pretty rapidly an ATM, micro ATM network in BCs across the country, where all these people can go and withdraw their money. Now, the other advantage of this model, we believe, is that this is an interoperable model. Just like you with an ATM card can go to any bank's ATM to withdraw money, tomorrow that NRAGA worker with his thumb can go to any BC and withdraw his money. And therefore, you are dealing that hard link saying only this BC, only this guy. So if a particular village has 3 BCs or 4 BCs, then the person can go to any BC and withdraw money because of open architecture. In other words, the person withdrawing the money has the choice to withdraw from any. So if a particular BC Kirana store is not giving good service, he can go to somebody else. And therefore, we'll have created choice at the village level of choosing your BC to withdraw money or whatever it is, exactly as it is done for us urban guys. So fundamentally, the equation changes where we can have a person having choice. I'm of the view that the BC can also choose to have many banks as its partners. Dr. Chakravarti still doesn't agree with me, but I see why not. Why can't the BC also tie with many banks? So there's competition among the banks to appoint the BCs, and therefore, and at the back end, it's all the ATM network infrastructure. So there's now no change at the back. So we think that this is a way that we can actually create the low-cost, affordable technology using the unique ID to be able to deliver low-cost financial inclusion. And that's really one of the ideas that we are talking about. Now, this UID, therefore, that's why we see the UID as an enabling infrastructure. UID by itself does not do anything beyond verification. But UID in the banking system using micro ATMs becomes a powerful catalyst for financial inclusion. UID as an authentication point in the PDS system becomes a powerful catalyst for making sure that the PDS food security happens on time. UID as a way to do some other application. For example, in healthcare, you can use UIDs to track the immunization of children and make sure the immunization program happens. So basically, what we are providing is a foundational infrastructure which allows you to build a lot of other applications which you re-engineer using the UID and create all these other applications which then become very powerful. And each of those applications essentially use the online authentication tools that we provide. And we also provide this online authentication as a software service. In other words, inside your programs also you can do a call to this application. So it doesn't have to be online, it can be through a programmatic interface also. So fundamentally, we think that this paradigm is something that will change. Now, apart from the fact that this is, in our view, a very powerful way to do financial inclusion, why else are we optimistic that this will happen? The first reason, I believe, is that the Reserve Bank, particularly the leadership, Dr. Subbarao, Usha Thorat, Dr. Chakravarti, are all very, very keen on the issue of financial inclusion, and I believe are willing to do what is required in terms of the infrastructure and the regulations to make this happen, because regulations are required in terms of what kind of BCs are required and so forth, cash management of BCs and so on. So a lot of things to be done, but fundamentally I believe the Reserve Bank is extremely keen that we genuinely take banking to every person. So that's one good reason that we have. Second, I believe that this mobile micro ATM model that I just described has fundamentally all the tools that we need to really do it on a large scale, because the costs are inexpensive. We're talking about 5,000 rupees per device. It uses the mobile network, so there's no additional network infrastructure. It uses BC, so there's no additional employees of the bank. It uses UID authentication, so that's another infrastructure which is out there. It uses the ATM switch at the back end, so there's no additional ATM infrastructure. So when you start looking at all the pieces, what we're really saying is take existing networks and just plug and play and create a new ecosystem for financial inclusion. So we think the model is finally there. And I think the challenge we have had so far is getting the model right. I believe now we have a model which we can scale up. Then there's the question of interoperability, because a lot of the financial inclusion initiatives today have got hampered because they're not interoperable. Every bank does something. They work with 2-3 vendors. They give some 500,000 cards, and that becomes the pilot. But what we are suggesting is a completely interoperable approach. Anyone who has a bank account with a thumb can go to any BC and withdraw money. As simple as that, in anywhere in the country. And that is fundamentally game-changing, because you don't really have to worry about which card, smart cards, Costa, Java, 32K. Don't worry about all this. He gets his thumb, puts his thumb, withdraws his money. So that makes life simple. So we think that we have this whole issue of interoperability which is designed. And it also lays the foundation for P2P transfers. In other words, today we don't allow person-to-person transfers because we don't have any way of authenticating who is the sender and who is the receiver. And fundamentally, I think with this, you can actually create P2P transfers, which means you can do remittances from point A to point B, or you can, for example, if I travel in a auto rickshaw in a village, I can pay the auto rickshaw driver a P2P from my mobile to his mobile account, my mobile bank account to his mobile bank account. So we can really create a cashless economy using this kind of technology. And this is a very important point, because today India's cash spending to GDP ratio, I mean the cost of cash is estimated about 2.5% of GDP, the whole cash in the system and the cost. And even a little bit of reduction, if we can reduce the number of retail transactions from 90% cash to less, even if we can reduce the cash part of the economy, we can reduce cost by at least 0.5% of GDP, which is a lot of money. In other words, this can actually have a huge reduction in transaction cost by using this kind of technology, because interoperability will be very much there. Now, what is the infrastructure we need for this? Clearly, luckily for us, most of the infrastructure is falling into place. The first is most of the banks today have core banking systems, and hopefully within the next year or so, they'll all go to 100% core banking. Connectivity is improving by the day. We have mobile connectivity now going to villages, and we have broadband connectivity going to all the gram panchayats. In other words, network, and even if the mobiles don't work, we can, in every gram panchayat, we can have a broadband connection for these things. Then organizations like the IDRBT and the newly proposed NPC will provide the back-end infrastructure. They'll provide the switches and all that to deal with the transaction volume that this will create. And then finally the UID, which we hope will be up and running in the next 12 to 18 months, will provide the basic verification, online verification capability that we need to make this finally robust enough for lot of transactions. In other words, it is partly luck and serendipity, but all the different pieces of the jigsaw puzzle are finally falling into place. In other words, we will in the next year and a half have all these pieces coming together. Now there's still the issue of the bank saying, what's in it for us, right? Every bank says, oh, we don't make money, nothing, these people they have only 10 rupees, they take out all the money, there's no money, there's no float, it costs us so much money, all that stuff. We believe that what we are proposing will fundamentally change the economics of this business. Number one, this does not involve opening branches. This involves appointing BCs. So there's no labor cost, office cost, none of that stuff. So these are all actually extensions. Frankly, if we allow BCs to have many banks as their partners, we don't have to worry about the BCs. They're really independent entrepreneurs who are acting like retail front ends to you.